Welcome to the podcast Listen to Unlearn, proudly sponsored by Gladwell Academy, your Agile transformation partner. Please join us in welcoming our host for today.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a new episode of Listen to Unlearn podcast. I'm Raul Barth here speaking. I have a very, I would say special guest, but it's a friend, it's a colleague, and we are 5 minutes away from our homes. I'm here with Eduardo. We are in a special place again, right?
Are we?
Oh, I think so. You can look behind us. That's not a virtual screen. That's a real one. You can see maybe some boards and some people still on the sea. But we are here in south of France, directly from a restaurant in Juan-les-Pins, near to Antibes, right? I'll let Eduardo introduce yourself a little bit, because I know you. It's been 6 years, 7, maybe.
Sometime.
But maybe some people there, they don't know you. A lot they might know you already, but maybe some they won't.
So hi everyone. It's nice to be here with you, and it's nice to be here with you, Raul, for this podcast episode, Listen to and Learn. It's my pleasure to be here, talking to you. I am Eduardo Eduardo. Have to say it's a little bit different taste, because most of the times I'm on the other side. I am interviewing, and this time it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different game. I'm going to be the interviewed, and you see that live things, this kind of things with your throat
getting emotional.
I'm getting emotional. So we'll see where it's going to bring us. It's nice to be here with you.
Yeah, and today we have a special place, and we're gonna talk about an interesting topic that I'll let Eduardo explain, but it's a topic around a talk he's going to give in a conference in France, a very known conference in France. It's called Agile That's going to take place in September, if I'm not wrong.
September.
Yeah, September, and that's a huge conference going on in France, and Eduardo is going to speak again, right? That's not the first time.
No.
It's what the...
For some weird reason, they like me over there. So this is the fourth year in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is the topic for this year?
Yeah. So I have talked, as I said, I have talked about at Agile and I have been fortunate to have my presentations selected by them, because they are very how can I say. They look into the quality of the presentations that are proposed in the call for papers, and I'm lucky enough to be one of the selected ones for the fourth year in a row. And I have talked about everything in many different things that you can imagine, but this year I wanted to talk something that is very close to my heart. That is about building products. Building products is really a subject that is close to my heart. I like very much. I have created products mostly my whole life, and I'm still creating products today. And I think I have learned many different things. I have been helping companies with creating products as well, and to bring these products that are very strategic to the public, to their customers, and to solve their problem. So that's what I'm going to talk about them.
No, not only products, right? You also produce books about producing products.
That's an interesting way to say. I have to say, yes. Last year in 2023, I have published one book that is Agile Product Management. It's exactly about that, how to create better products in organizations. And I'm very happy with the result, and I'm very happy with all the feedback that I have received from people. And I'm also happy to say that book has already reached many different countries around the world. So that is really interesting.
Yeah,
So thank you very much
yeah.
already.
And what is the title of your talk? Can you the title you can mention because it's in the program, right?
Yeah.
What is it about? It's about because I heard it many times. It's about some sort of complexity, if that exists. Yeah.
Yeah, we can make. You would be surprised on how good we are on creating things that are very complex or making it more complex and more complicated than they should be. But the title of my talk is going to be Mastering Complexity with SAFe to Drive Innovative Product Development. So the idea is to give a little bit to the crowd and to talk and mostly have a conversation with them because that's what they like to do.
Yeah.
About how can we use some of the elements that we have as part of the SAFe framework, for instance, to drive innovation, to create great products that will solve customers' problems. So that is pretty much the whole idea behind.
Oh, that's cool. You mentioned two, based on what we see, at least, two very interesting topics, which is producing the right thing and the right product, right,
Yeah.
the value, and the innovation part. Because nowadays people, they complain that they don't even have time to innovate, right? But you also go back a little bit to the basics in the sense about like the foundation of this framework, right? You also talk about values and how they connect somehow with all of that.
Yeah, because if you think about not just the SAFe values, if we think about the principles, not just from Scaled Agile Framework, but also from the Agile Manifesto, for instance, what we are talking here is the whole idea behind is to create great products that will satisfy and solve customer problems. And meanwhile, we are having fun, we are motivated, we are engaged, we are learning, and we also bring benefits to the company that we work for. So this is the big idea, the biggest idea behind not just the Agile Manifesto, for instance, but also from the Scaled Agile Framework. So for that, both they put together different a system of values, some principles that are guiding principles that will help you to go that specific direction, for instance, and they are here to guide us. Practices we can adapt according to the culture, according to the country that we live, according to legislation, but the ideas behind, the mindset behind this is the most important. So we need to create the right products for the right customers with the right level of quality, solving the problems, having fun and innovating and learning, and bringing also benefits to the company. So these are the most important things that can happen.
Very easy, right?
Oh, yeah.
And why going back? Because also the title mentioned complexity, and the description, if I'm not wrong, also talks about kind of getting out of this complexity or trying to minimize this complexity. How? And maybe it's a kind of a spoiler because if you need to know everything, then you need to be at a conference.
Yes. Come and see me in French.
Agile en Scène. It will be in September 23rd,
Something.
if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
But sometimes I am. So why going back from getting out of this complexity, going back to the basics and trying to reduce complexity? How does it help people with, like what you mentioned, innovation, the value that they want to deliver, satisfying the customers? Because nowadays everything is quite complex, right?
Yep. I think that first of all, it's important to understand the world that we live in. The world that we are living in is very complex, and it's uncertain. So the kind of the VUCA world that people they talk about for quite a long time already, but for some reason it's hard for them to understand exactly what it means in real life. So the thing is, we are creating the most complex solutions in the world, for which we don't necessarily have all the answers. We need to learn, we need to test, we need to validate, we need to try things out, we need to fail. So all of these kind of things, they add a certain complexity. So if you take that and you put in a rigid, let me say, in a rigid way of work where
Yeah.
you need to have all the answers up front, for instance, this world they just clash. It makes absolutely no sense, and then that also makes you to lock your decisions too early in the process when you don't know, you just don't know. So the first thing that you need to decomplexify is to acknowledge that things will change and that you don't know. You just don't know. And for that, you need to formulate a hypothesis and try to validate this hypothesis as soon as possible with the minimum amount of investment. Because if you are wrong,
Yeah.
you need to be wrong as quick and as fast as possible, because then I get some feedback and I'm going to say, okay, what do I do with that? Should I keep on going? Should I keep investing? Should I stop the investment? Should I invest on something else? So this is the kind of thing, one of the things that will help to decomplexify.
Yeah, and eventually we will be wrong, right? Especially in product development.
Oh,
where
yeah.
You try to, whatever you're trying to estimate or build, and when you start doing things, you're going to learn, and that's going to be complex anyway. But there is a difference between complex and complicated, no?
Yes.
Well, because you mentioned complexity many times. But what is something is complicated? Does it mean it's complex?
No. So if I just come back to the basics, for instance, when we think about complicated, what is complicated? What makes something complicated? Or how to solve complicated problems? So the easiest way on trying to explain this is when you have a complicated environment is because you have a direct link between cause and consequence. Cause and consequence. That means you can solve this kind of problems with a typical algorithm,
Yeah.
for instance, that if, then, else, cause and consequence, cause and consequence. When we talk about a complex world or a complex environment, complex problem, for instance, there is no direct link between cause and consequence. Why am I saying that? Because as much as you want to do an if, there are so many different variables, there are so many different things that will influence on the behavior of your system, of your solution, for instance, that it's very hard to predict. And at this point, for instance, instead of doing this if then else, you have to navigate through the options in order to find your right answer. And that is a big problem because we are not used to deal with that. We want certainties, we want to forecast, we want to have 0.27 whatever, we want to say that it's 62%. That makes absolutely no sense in this world because you just don't know. You have to treat things as they are. So in a complex world, you have to draw hypotheses and try to validate them as soon as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, because as you said before, if you're wrong, and you will be wrong sometimes, then you can change faster, right? But do you think, so I have a question for you because I was thinking about something. Do you think that this complex environment is sometimes even an enabler for innovation?
Absolutely.
Because you don't know things, right?
Absolutely, because you need to be creative. You need to come up with new ideas, new approaches, test new technologies, for instance, talk to different people. You are not going to solve the problems that you have today with the tools that we used 20 years ago, and that is something that we have also to acknowledge. So, in this kind of environment where we have this complex world, complex problems, this is where the agile mindset and the agile frameworks that will implement this agile mindset, they will flourish because they will foster this rapid experimentation, the rapid feedback. I learn and move to the next, and I can become creative, and creativity will sparkle waves of creativity on others and even within our brain, and this is a very important thing. So there is a very, very tight relationship between complexity, creativity, and innovation.
Yeah. And then what we want is leverage this complexity, right? To also innovate, create new things. But you mentioned before that, like, complicated is when you know how to go from A to B. That's going to be
If
complicated.
then else. Yeah.
And you also mentioned that it's hard sometimes because as a human being, we want to have control, right? We want to try to be 100% sure that this is going to take this amount of time, and we always going to be wrong. It's a kind of estimation. So complexity also kind of help you with that, right? Because I assume that you have seen many cases outside that it's hard for some people to give away this. It's a fake control. It's not a real control because you can't really control.
It's like it. I mean, this is what I call the pretending game. So this is a story that I tell him as part of my book as well. In the 90s, there was a very famous football player.
I know because I read. By the way, I have the first version of the book
with
the first version of the cover.
Exactly, with the first version of the cover that I got feedback. It was not nice, and then I've changed. But so there was this football player, and again, very the real football, the Brazilian football, not the American football, right?
Not like soccer.
No, there's no such a thing as soccer. So this guy, he played for the biggest clubs in around the world, and he came to Europe, and he has made a lot of fame, and career was absolutely amazing. He won everything that he had to win. And then he said, at a given point in my career, the very last year when I plan to retire, I'm going to go back to Brazil and I'm going to play for this club that was my first club in my career. In fact, I was very young. And then that's exactly what he said, because he was a man of his word. And then he went back to Brazil and he started playing for this club, and he was playing very, very high level and crashing and nailing everything. And then at a given point, his performance started to go down. And then the press started to ask, what's going on? Because, I mean, you cannot just unlearn how to play football. You cannot just be bad from one day to another. And then at a given point, he was not even on the initial 11. He wasn't even in the bench anymore. He was not even there anymore. And then one reporter asked him, when they found him, when they met him again, and he said, "What's going on?" And then he said, "Hey, well, there are many things that are happening that you guys are not aware of. So this club that I'm playing for during this year, it's a club that I really love. But the thing is, they are going through very difficult, harsh financial problems." And in fact, they are not paying our salaries. And that is already for 3-4 months in a row, but no one talks about it. And the president of the club pretends that nothing is happening. So if they pretend that they pay us, I'm going to pretend that I play as well. So this is the pretending game. On the pretending game, you just pretend things, but they are not real. And then when you are working with these companies that they're creating IT-enabled solutions, that they're creating and solutions to solve complex problems, it makes absolutely no sense that you just come back and try to pretend that everything is predictable, everything is going to be A plus B plus C, or A then B then C, because that's not how it works.
Yeah.
And we see that technology change every day, market change every day, the customers, they change their minds every day. So this is very difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine that. We've seen this a lot, especially in big companies when you have this pretending game and politics and everything involved. So as a last question for you.
Already?
I would ask. Can I ask another one? Because I was now that you mentioned, you gave me the opportunity. You can't say no anymore. A part of the description of the talk says, "Discover how to transform transparency from a buzzword into your most powerful tool for engagement and alignment." Why transparency?
Because transparency enables trust, and trust is one of the most basic human needs that we have. I mean, you can work with people, for instance, that you don't trust, but you need to be very professional to do that. Um, so teams that are high performing, they have trust as a basis of everything, and to enable the trust, we need transparency. So transparency is not just a buzzword. Transparency needs to be as bottom up as it's top down. And for many years we have been seeing that transparency was always bottom up, and then when it was top down, it was the moment that the people they say, hey, this is above your pay grade, or this is not for you. It's a strategic thing. Don't bother about it. You're just a technical person. It makes absolutely no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. So transparency enables trust, and then if you have an environment where you have trust, well, then Agile will do wonders for you.
Everything will be easier.
A lot easier,
Yeah.
because we have recorded a podcast about that.
Yeah. So we have trust and transparency in two different talks.
Yes,
That's good. As a last question, then, what would tell? I think that question could be a kind of mix. It could be, what will be your last words to people out there listening to us in this episode? And it could be a kind of a mix between that and why people should come to that talk, because that talk you're gonna listen way more than just what we recorded in here. So what will be your last words to people for this episode, and why should they come to this talk?
that's an interesting question. So number one, because I talk a lot about stories that happened with me. I have so many of them. I could write books about stories that happened to me, funny stories, sad stories, and everything. So
Incredibly, you wrote already.
I did. Yes, I did. But other than that, I like to share this kind of stories with people. I make a lot of fun about myself as well on the stage. I like to see the feedback. I don't like to give a one-way talk. It's just me there on the stage and blah 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 blah. It's a conversation, and I think that is more important. So that is number one. Number two, because I truly firmly believe that there is a different way of creating products in a more dynamic way, taking into consideration all of these characteristics that we have discussed during this last minutes, for instance, in this podcast session. And there are companies that are already doing this, and I don't think there is any reason why other companies couldn't do as well and take advantage of this kind of thing. So I'm going to give tips and tricks about that, how to start, and then hopefully let's see if Agile in 2025 I'm going to have a sequence approved for that.
Don't give the tips now. They need to come there.
Yes.
Which, by the way, is in Paris, so it's also a good excuse.
Paris, baby.
So thank you very much, Eduardo, for being in this episode. Again, was not a very common scenario. That, again, is not a virtual scenario. Otherwise, it would be a very good one because it even moves and stuff. But welcome to everybody. Again, thank you for listening to us. Thank you, Eduardo, for being here. And hope to see you guys soon in the next episode.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you. Cheers.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Recording.